Hi everyone, today I want to discuss the first recorded game by Paul Morphy, the first unofficial world champion of chess. The games played by Morphy are especially useful for beginners and intermediate players, because Morphy was the first modern player who had a positional understanding of chess. Also, he was a very accurate player, who punished the mistakes his opponents made. In that way, they are also very good for tactical training. This first game is between Morphy, who was 11 at the time, and his father. And Morphy showed already that he is a very good chess player, which has also some strategical ideas. So, Morphy plays white, he opens e4. This leads to open games. He quickly develops his pieces. This bishop is now free to come out. This queen is now free to come out. And he takes control over these two central squares. In the opening, you want to bring out your pieces as fast as possible and dominate the center. Morphy's father plays e5. e5 has the same benefits as e4. Morphy brings out the bishop to c4, attacking this weak point, which is only defended by the king. This is a starting point of many classical chess attacks. And now Morphy's father plays the move f5. f5 question mark, because he doesn't develop his pieces into the game. f5 doesn't open new diagonals for his pieces. His main idea is to bring the knight behind these two pawns. Now, what is Morphy to play? The best move in this position is d3, opening up this bishop. But Morphy plays a move which goes against the opening principles. He takes this pawn off. Now this is a bad move. Why is it bad? First of all, it loses time. Grabbing pawns in the opening is losing time. You should be busy bringing out these pieces who are not working at first rank. And more importantly, he gives up control over the center. By grabbing this pawn, he loses pawn control over these two squares. By trading a central pawn for an outside pawn, Morphy loses influence in the center, and in the opening you want to dominate in the center. So this move is definitely not the best one. There is a temporary threat for white, and that is to give a check here. This check is very dangerous because it can't be blocked because the pawn is working together with the queen. But basically it's not the best move. Morphy's father plays knight f6 and protecting against this check in combination with the pawn. Morphy plays knight c3. He wants to stop d5. Morphy's father makes a mistake here. He plays d5 anyway. He's thinking the pawn is 2 times attacked and 2 times defended. So if white's gonna take on d5, he's gonna win these two for these two, and which is good, of course. But this is a mistake by Morphy's father, because this knight has a job to do. He's protecting the queen check here, right? So basically this pawn is only 1 time defended because the knight is busy defending the check there. Morphy takes off this pawn and says, basically he's saying to his father, you made a mistake. Because if you take this knight off, I'm gonna give this check. And there are some crazy lines for black by moving the king, and then probably white will open up the center and threatening to give check here and winning the queen. Then black has to play a very accurate move, and then he can bring his knight here. But this is a little bit a crazy position, and I'm sure that Morphy's father didn't see all the way through this. Probably this is something Steinitz maybe would have played, because Steinitz is the next great player after Morphy, because he had one idea that the king can take care of himself even if in the opening. Steinitz played some openings where the king walked around in the opening, but most players prefer their king safely in the to the side of the board. So of course Morphy's father didn't see it like this, just he was thinking that he made a mistake against his son, like this. So he just developed his bishop to c5, and now Morphy could play for complications by playing d4, bringing his bishop out and pressuring this point, but he decided to play it safe. Black just lost a pawn, so he says, I'm gonna trade off. I'm a pawn in front. Let's keep it safe. And he played d3. This pawn is grabbed. And now you see that black has an isolated pawn, which is sometimes hard to defend, and white just has an extra pawn here. That's on the one that's on d3. White keeps on developing. And now black plays a tricky move. He plays bishop g4. Now if Morphy just wants to castle here, then of course black is gonna take on f3 here, and then he's gonna go for this position. And now you see that white has doubled pawns, which are also isolated, so this is some kind of weakness, but at the same time this is playable for white. He has firm control over the square in front of the isolated pawn, but yeah, maybe this is good for white, but why go for complications if you can avoid them? Was Morphy thinking already at that age. So what he played here, and this is for me the move of the game. It's not objectively the best move, but it's just playing it safe. He just played bishop d5, protecting this point, and it comes with a threat, grabbing this pawn and grabbing the rook. So black has to do something, play c6, and now this bishop goes to the best place on the board, basically. If you see the difference between the bishop here and the bishop here, here the bishop can't be harassed by pawns. It takes at least 3 moves to attack it with the knight, because the knight has to come here and then has to go to one of these squares, right, to attack the bishop. So the bishop is very well placed, and there's no problem here. By white is not gonna get double pawns, so why not play this like this? Black develops his knight, and now white can castle. Now black wants to castle queenside. He wants to castle here, but if he does this, his queen and rook are on the same diagonal,